Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And we're here talking with great friend Christi.Jackson from Laura Divine Immigration. How are you, Christi?
Doing really well. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to be with you. And, our audience are all companies that are interested in U.S. expansion, growing in the U.S. and becoming successful there. And obviously, you do a lot of work with companies expanding to the U.S. And maybe before we kind of hop into our general topic, if you wouldn't mind just describing a little bit about what Laura Divine Immigration does to support companies expanding to the U.S.
Absolutely. So we are a U.S. and U.K. immigration boutique law firm. So all we do is U.K. and U.S. immigration. I head our U.S. immigration practice, and we have offices in both London and in New York to assist clients with their moves to the U.S. So we work with clients who are typically moving either in a business capacity, so companies that are moving their employees or they're setting up new businesses, brand new businesses, expansions, scale-ups, startups. We sort of do a little bit of everything, as well as some individual immigration for people who maybe have ideas and want to move to the U.S. but haven't yet quite gotten their companies off the ground. So we will look at any opportunities for them as well.
That's fantastic. So you've been supporting companies expanding to the U.S. for several years, and I'm sure you've seen some folks that do it really well and succeed, and those that maybe not so well. And when you think about ones that struggle with U.S. expansion, where did they struggle?
Yeah, you're right. I've been doing this a long time. I've been at this almost over 20 years. So
you started as a teenager, as I recall.
Yeah. So I've been practicing solely in U.S. immigration law for 20 years, and I have seen the struggles, and I am familiar with where companies maybe get it wrong or haven't put enough thought into it. And I think really, one of the things that I say to clients all the time is they must plan ahead. And it's not uncommon that we will get a client coming to us saying, we are so far down in our journey of U.S. expansion. We've done this, we've done that, we've done this, and now we need the person that's going to make it all happen to go to the U.S., and we'd like them to be there next week. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way in U.S. immigration. We have limited visa categories. We've got to, assess how has this company been set up, what will work for this company, and then once we've made a decision, we could be looking at 4 to 6 months before we can actually have boots on the ground in the U.S. running the business. And I think additionally is when you are planning ahead as a company, you're taking advice usually from a corporate lawyer and a tax lawyer, and you have all of these ducks in a row, and they don't always necessarily mesh well with immigration. So what a tax advisor might be saying needs to be done and how the company needs to be set up and structured from a tax perspective doesn't always work from an immigration perspective. And so by starting early with an immigration advisor on board, we're able, to help clients liaise with their tax advisors and their corporate lawyers to say, I appreciate that structure might be best, but it's going to cut off, the best visa category. And so we may want to consider, this alternative structure. And so I think, it's really, doing that due diligence early on in the process, involving the immigration advisor early on in the process, because otherwise you may be so far down the line that you don't realize that actually you've maybe limited your options.
It's funny, as you were talking, the metaphor, the thought bubble above my head was what you're really talking about is that what I'm hearing is a concert, right?
Absolutely.
Each resource is a great instrument, but if they don't play together and you don't get them all kind of into the concert, the music isn't going to be very good.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think, sometimes we will have a client come to us, they're far down the process and they have set it up in a way that works, and that's great for them. But I have seen it the other way around. It also is true for companies who are have already gone to the US, already have people on visas, and then they're going to go through a merger or an acquisition, and they're in the talks of corporate structure change, and they never think to put immigration lawyers in during that due diligence process, only to find that all of their key people have to leave the US immediately once that deal is done. And I have had to pick up those pieces and provide some really scrambled, measures to try to limit the damage. So I think it's just really not discounting how important immigration is to expansion and corporate changes.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So we're going to be together on 29 September for an event in London, which is going to be a lot of fun. So it's called Gateway to Growth, Expanding Your Business to the USA. Obviously we're anticipating a really nice audience for that, probably lots of really good questions. Are there some particular things, and you've mentioned the idea of anticipation and kind of bringing the resources together earlier rather than later? I would imagine that's going to be one takeaway that you want to make sure companies have. Are there any other takeaways you want to make sure that the companies have?
Yeah, so definitely it's always going to be at the top of my agenda is please start early. But I think, there are other things to note. At the moment, the U.S. is in a relatively difficult immigration period. Things aren't necessarily very easy. And that isn't limited to just what you're seeing on the news with undocumented immigrants. We are also encountering difficulties at several levels throughout the legal immigration process that our corporate clients are going through. So that could be, delays in processing, which is very, very common. It could be that we are seeing a lot more pushback, a bit higher level scrutiny on what maybe used to be a very simple filing. And I think really, so again, I know I appreciate I'm saying it's going back to my plan ahead, but it's just being a little bit more realistic that we have to kind of work with the cards that we're dealt at the moment, and understand that you have to have some flexibility because the current administration has been making changes quickly and with no notice. So we are, waking up to new policies and things change. So I do think having a little bit of patience and understanding we're all sort of in it together with the same goal is always a good place for a client to start. And I think, I think it's really that planning ahead, being a bit patient and understanding that not everything is as simple as I ticked the boxes, because it isn't. In U.S. immigration, there's a lot of room for discretion and subjectiveness. And I also think, going back to my planning ahead, one area that we see is about funding. So a lot of companies that are expanding to the U.S., especially startups, are taking on external funding, usually VC funding, private equity funding, and that can really limit their immigration options. And so even how they're funding their projects and their expansion could drive us to select one kind of visa versus another visa. So really being able to go, thoroughly through the visa categories. So when we have our talk next month, I will talk about our main categories that we are typically sending sort of a business work employee to the U.S. and helping clients. So those visa categories are typically going to be the E2 category, maybe an E1. Those are both based on treaties that the U.S. has. And then we've got L1 intercompany transfers, wholly dependent on a corporate relationship and whether that employee's been working outside the U.S. already. So it wouldn't be an appropriate visa for a brand new company setting up in the U.S., only for one that's expanding. Those really are our two most common categories. So you can see how limited our options are. They're very specific. And so, we'll do, a little bit of an overview on the panel about what those different options are, so that hopefully we catch some of these companies early before they have set everything up and pressed go. You know, and look, at the end of the day, I get clients coming to me that have pressed go and they are ready to go, and we are good. We can do lots of really, really magical things, but at the end of the day, we are not magicians. So we just do our best and make things happen. And as I said, hopefully the advice they've been given already hasn't cut off some of the best routes for them.
Perfect. No, it makes so much sense. And I really am so excited for our conversation on the 29th. And I really appreciate you taking the time today, Christi.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm looking forward to the panel, and hopefully we have lots of good attendees that are prepared with lots of questions and ready to get moving to the US. We'll be more than happy to talk about it with them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Pleasure. Nice to see you, Bill.